Excuse me. Can I just ask you a real quick
My
question?
investigation into George Colazzo's murder has taken a turn.
You guys, this is so ridiculous. Who has a getaway car on something that's random?
His sister is adamant that the official theory of the crime is wrong. And she's not the first person I've heard say that.
So what is your gut telling you about this?
It wasn't random. I don't think it's random.
Months earlier at the crime scene, former detective Bobby Adelarado thought the same thing.
To me, it looks like a hit. It looks like a setup.
Meaning that George Colazzo was targeted to be killed?
Yes.
Bobby says his first clue, that getaway car parked at the corner.
So they pull up, and they just happen to get the corner spot.
A perfect place to wait until George showed up.
Let's play the scenario out. If I'm sitting there, I can see you. So just say if you're laying in wait, you go, here they come. Let's go.
And it appears they may have been laying in wait. According to police reports, a hot dog vendor on that block said he saw the men hanging around earlier that morning and even told a passerby to be careful, that the men had guns. And then there was that bump that supposedly started it all.
It's not like you're walking in a tight area, okay? You know, you're not walking where it's like, you know, it's Manhattan. You bump into people all the time. It's almost like you had to go out of your way to bump into each other. It's a wide open spot.
And Bobby says the way George was killed speaks volumes.
He's shot once in the face, point blank, okay? This was personal. It was face to face.
Meaning someone wanted only George dead, which is why Bobby believes that Michael Sanchez was not shot.
The shooter let the eyewitness live. They're together, okay? Why you shoot one and you don't shoot the other?
So if Bobby's right, and it was a hit, that means there was a plan. And that's why there's one key person he'd want to know more about. The main eyewitness, Michael Sanchez.
If it's a hit, then you have to know that the victim was going to be at that location where you parked your car. I'm just saying Sanchez, to me, is not out of the realm of suspicion.
So he's a guy you'd want to know more?
Yes.
I'd been trying to find Sanchez for months to find out what he remembers. Eventually, someone connected to the case gives me his phone number, and he answers on my first try.
Hello?
Hi, Michael. This is Dan Slepian. I'm a producer with NBC News. How are you?
I'm good, but this is not a good time because I'm at work.
Right away, he tells me he's at work and asks me to call back in an hour.
All right, I'll call you later. I'll call you later on.
I try a few times, but he never answers.
Please record your message.
Give me a call when you get a chance. I just want to chat with you a little bit and let you know. And I keep trying and trying. To this day, I've never heard back.
To leave a callback number, press 5.
Maybe he just doesn't want to talk to me about a horrible memory. And to be clear, he has never been implicated in this crime and might not have anything to do with it at all. But to run with Bobby's theory for a moment that Sanchez might know more than he told police, consider this. Remember that slapping incident the victim's sister told me about?
He was scared. He knew something was going to happen to him because he slapped that girl.
The one that happened 2 weeks before her brother's murder? This is where the plot thickens.
You know, Mikey's girlfriend.
Wanaka told me that girl was Michael Sanchez's girlfriend at the time.
But here's something I find even more interesting. The original detectives knew about the slapping incident back then. It's all documented in their reports. In fact, it was Michael Sanchez who told them about it. In his interview with police, he said that George and his girlfriend did not get along. So the detectives actually went and spoke with Lamari Leon, the girl who was slapped. In her interview, she says that she filed a harassment report 2 weeks before the murder with the police department. So now I want to get my hands on that report.
I file a Freedom of Information request with the NYPD, and about a month later, I get a letter denying me the report. So I call a lawyer from the NYPD to follow up.
I have filed a Freedom of Information request.
He tells me the only one who can get it is Lamari Leon, the woman who filed it. So I track her down. I'm calling Lamari Leon. I speak with her a few times. She declines to go on camera, but tells me Michael Sanchez was just a friend. Hi, Lamari, how are you? And she has no idea who killed George or why he slapped her 2 weeks before his murder. She also tells me she doesn't remember filing a harassment report about it with the NYPD.
So what they said to me was that if you request it, you can get it.
But when I tell her I know it exists, she assures me that she'll help me get it. And that's when I stop hearing from Lamari. I follow up with her many times, but now she isn't returning my calls, and I still don't have that report.
I'm definitely interested in finding out more about that slapping incident, and I'm still trying to get my hands on that report. So I'm on my way down to speak with Richard's current attorneys. Their names are Glenn Garber and Rebecca Friedman. They run an organization called the Exoneration Initiative that focuses on claims of innocence.
This case smells terrible, and it looks like a terrible injustice has occurred.
You just have to glance at the case to understand how significant it is.
Glenn and Rebecca are the latest of nearly a dozen appellate attorneys who have volunteered to help Rosario overturn his conviction.
This case has gone all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and Richard has been denied over and over and over again. What makes you guys think that you can do something different than every other attorney has done?
What's the Babe Ruth comment?
It's hard to beat someone who never gives up.
And we're in the Bronx, by the way.
Glenn and Rebecca needed a hook, something new, to convince a judge to grant Rosario another day in court. I wonder about that slapping incident, something Rosario's original jury never heard about.
I'm really intrigued by that. Now that, to me, seems like a little bit more of a motive than a random bump in the street. It didn't seem like the detectives vigorously investigated that, did they?
It is my understanding that they did not do very much to follow up on it.
The attorneys tell me they don't know much about it either, but believe they found something even more important when they began to focus on a woman named Nicole Torres.
Nicole Torres was a witness originally interviewed by the police at the scene of the crime, who never testifies at trial.
Nicole Torres went to school with both the victim, George Colazzo, and his friend, Michael Sanchez. And according to this police report, she appeared on the scene just minutes after George was shot.
So the way the police report was written around Nicole Torres was as if she was a immaterial witness who didn't see anything and didn't hear anything.
But that's not what Glenn and Rebecca heard when they spoke with Nicole Torres in person.
So when you go speak to Nicole Torres recently, she tells you a completely different story than what the police reports indicate.
That's right.
True, correct.
Nearly 2 decades after the murder, Nicole signed this affidavit swearing that police report was wrong. In fact, she now says she was right there and saw the whole thing. The gunman, the getaway car. She even heard what the killer said.
She saw the killer jog up behind them and say, "Hey George, this is for you," before shooting George Colazzo in the head once. And then she saw him turn around and jog to an intersection where there was a car waiting.
And Nicole told the attorneys something else that troubled them.
So she did go to the precinct the day of the crime, and they interviewed her and showed her photo books, and she didn't identify anyone. A few weeks later, the police detectives came back to her, and they had a single photo of a male Hispanic, and they asked her, "Is this the guy?" His family's saying he's in Florida.
Meaning they were showing a picture of Richard.
Right, of course.
But Nicole didn't identify Rosario or anyone else, and she wasn't contacted again. Much of the police report from Nicole Torres' interview on the day of the crime is blacked out, redacted. But buried in the case file, Rebecca found an unredacted copy of that report that had been disclosed years after Rosario's trial.
So in the redacted version of the police report, it's hard to even tell who's speaking. When you receive the unredacted version, you see that she told the police Michael Sanchez said to her at the scene of the crime he didn't see the shooter.
But remember, Michael Sanchez was the first one who pointed to Rosario's picture just a few hours after the shooting.
That is a significant piece of information, and certainly a defense attorney would want to have that information so they can cross-examine Sanchez to show to a jury that he's not credible.
Glenn and Rebecca believe they now have enough to ask a judge to reopen Rosario's case, to hold a hearing and call witnesses, and they file a motion in Bronx Supreme Court. The Bronx DA responded to Rosario's motion, writing that his office voluntarily began a reinvestigation and that both eyewitnesses, Michael Sanchez and Robert Davis, remained steadfast that Rosario was the gunman. And in a footnote, the DA said Rosario's purported alibi evidence had already been exhaustively evaluated and rejected, so no one from the DA's office contacted them. With Rosario's fate now in the hands of a judge, his family has new hope that they'll be reunited. For now, All they can do is wait.
So we are waiting for the judge's decision to give us this hearing, and we're hoping he will do it and we can call all the witnesses in and establish Richard's innocence. It's hard to imagine that he's still in prison. He's a wonderful person, has a wonderful family, but even if that were not the case, he's clearly innocent. There's no doubt about it in our minds.
Here at the airport, about to get on the plane soon, hopefully, go see our father.
That's next on Conviction.